Welcome everyone to the fifth annual Women in Construction. This is one of our longest running webinars at RESCON, and we do it in partnership with Orca. We've also been very happy to bring a sponsor on, Sherrard Coos, and so thank you them for their sponsorship. As I said, this is one of the most popular um, webinars that we run. It's certainly has the most talented speakers and probably the most accomplished speakers of all the webinars we do. And today we're going to talk about women in construction and where we can go from here. And so a couple themes that you're going to hear throughout today are one, we are making progress, and two, there's still a long way to go. And so, as always, we're going to do our annual check-in and we're going to focus on growth and we're going to focus on where we're at. We're going to not try and pull any punches. We're going to hear from some leading experts in the industry. But we're also going to have some panels. And one of the panels is going to feature and focus on women and highlight on how a career that started in the trades has grown. And so there are many paths once you start in the skilled trades, and we really want to highlight that. And that's a bit of a theme that we're going to bring to this webinar and to this year. I'd also like to acknowledge all of the women in the industry, not just those on the tools, but those off the tools and those supporting women on the tools and the women on the job site. Um, and as part of today, we have Maggie Hall from Tridel. She's going to do what I'll call like a best practice, but really looking at how do we take some of the policy and best practices and how do we put them and implement them and put them into practice. This webinar largely speaks to and brings together what I would call the converted. So these are the people that believe in removing some of the barriers and creating pathways for more women to get into the trades. And so I'd like to acknowledge that. There are a lot of champions in this area, but also within residential construction and the broader and larger construction industry. I also want to recognize the leadership of the minister, so Minister David Piccini, as well as Associate Minister Charmaine Williams and Candice White, who's the CEO of Skilled Trades Ontario. This government for a long time has been a skilled trades government, and that is continuing today. And that support through thick and thin really does make a difference. I'd like to thank Yasmin and Meredith, who do all the legwork and planned all of this and did all the real work. And then finally, I'm really excited about today because it's a day for me and for the industry to hear about women, about the issues that are affecting women, and what we can do to try and get more women into construction. I'm going to do a quick land acknowledgement, and then I'm going to hand it over to Meredith, who's going to play a couple videos, and then we're going to get right into it. So we'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional territories and treaty lands, in particular those of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation, as well as the Anishinaabe of the Williams Treaty First Nation and the Huron-Wendat and the Métis Nation. As RESCON's office is located in Vaughan, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. And with that, I will turn it over to Meredith.
Perfect. So to kick us off today, we are happy to share video remarks from Minister Charmaine Williams. She's the Associate Minister of Women, Social and Economic Opportunity. Minister Williams is a strong advocate for inclusivity and continues to lead initiatives that create meaningful opportunities for women in diverse communities. So we will play the video now.
Hi everyone, I'm Charmaine Williams, Ontario's Associate Minister of Women, Social and Economic Opportunity. Now I'm really sorry I couldn't be there with you all today, but it gives me great pleasure to say a few words to everyone who is here for RESCON's 5th annual webinar on women in construction. Women make up less than 5% of Ontario's construction workforce and less than 30% of workers in the skilled trades. But things are changing, and there has never been a better time for women to land and secure well-paying jobs in the building trades than right now. Since 2018, the number of women employed in the skilled trades related occupations in the construction industry in Ontario has increased by 50%. And our government has taken action by bringing in new laws that are making construction workplaces more accessible and welcoming for women. This includes mandated properly fitting personal protective equipment for women and diverse body types, clean washrooms and menstrual products on larger sites. And just last week, our government announced more than $8.6 million through the Skills Development Fund to help more than 1,700 women access training and prepare for high-paying, in-demand careers in the skilled trades. It's all a part of our government's plan to increase women's role in our economy and help more women achieve financial security and independence, because we know that when women succeed, Ontario succeeds. So I want to say a big thank you to RESCON and today's webinar participants for your leadership and commitment to supporting women's participation in the skilled trades. Have a great webinar, everyone, and I hope to see you all soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Minister Williams, for that video remarks. So next, we are pleased to share video remarks from the Minister of Labor, Immigration, Training, and Skills Development, the Honorable David Piccini. Minister Piccini has demonstrated exceptional leadership in promoting the skilled trades and advancing opportunities for women in construction.
Hello, everyone at RESCON. Thank you for inviting me to share a few words. I'm David Piccini, Ontario's Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training, and Skills Development. We know that Ontario needs over 500,000 tradespeople over the next decade. With 1 in 3 retiring, who's going to build the highways, roads, hospitals our province so desperately needs? That's why we're helping Ontario tradeswomen break down barriers and build our province. One project, one career, one success story at a time. Our government is proud to invest in programs that help women get started and grow in the trades, whether that's on the tools, in management, or in leadership positions. Through programs like our Skills Development Fund, we're supporting mentorship, training, and opportunity so every woman can build a career for life. We're breaking down barriers, ensuring people have opportunity. Thank you, RESCON, for your leadership in advancing women in construction. You have been such an important partner of our government. Together, we're working for workers and building a strong future for our great province.
Thank you, Minister Piccini, for those remarks. So now moving on, we are pleased to welcome our keynote speaker, Candice White, who is the CEO of Skilled Trades Ontario. Since joining STO only in November of 2024, Candice has successfully overseen the transfer of 3 core apprenticeship responsibilities and led a province-wide marketing campaign aimed at engaging youth, parents, and educators. Under her leadership, STO has realigned its priorities to enhance efficiency, improve service delivery, and deliver measurable results. Candice is a strong advocate for the skilled trades and an inspiring leader and mentor to all women in the industry. So over to you, Candice.
Thank you, Meredith, and everyone. It is a pleasure to be here, and thank you to RESCON for bringing us together for such an important conversation. It's a privilege to join so many leaders, partners, and advocates who are driving real change for women in construction. At Skilled Trades Ontario, we share that goal to build a stronger, more inclusive skilled trade system that reflects the full talent of our province. And today's theme, Women in Construction, goes right to the heart of that work. As a mom of 3 children, this whole is very near and dear to my heart. I am a daughter of a tradesperson. My father owned a water well drilling business my entire life with my grandfather, and I am a victim of the stigma. For those who don't know my story, I very much wanted to join the family business. I very much felt that I could do it better than my dad and my grandfather. But due to the fact that I was a girl, and I was a daughter and not a son, I was not given the opportunity to pursue the family business. And so it is very fulfilling for me from a life journey perspective that I have landed in this role, back influencing skilled trades and being able to ensure and work with all of the fine people that I meet every day, that we are working towards getting women recognized in the skilled trades. The numbers tell a story we should all be proud of. Women are entering the skilled trades in record numbers, now making up 14% of active apprentices across Ontario, and that share continues to grow in many, many trades, specifically in the service sector. But let's be honest, progress doesn't yet mean parity. Women still represent less than 5% of construction apprentices in Ontario. That's not about interest or ability, it's about opportunity. In construction especially, we still see too few women represented. There are mentorship gaps and lingering stereotypes of what a typical tradesperson looks like. That's why we need to intervene early to change perceptions, open doors, and to make sure women can not only enter those careers, but stay, grow, and lead them. At Skill Trades Ontario, we're taking concrete action to make that a reality. We've modernized the apprenticeship system to make it easier to navigate, streamlining processes for apprentices, simplifying pathways, and using data to understand where women are entering the system and where they're being lost. Through the Level Up Career Fairs, we're helping young women and girls see themselves in these careers early on. I recently attended a couple of career fairs, and it was so refreshing to see young women on virtual welding equipment, hammers in their hands, drills in their hands, and smiles on their faces. I'm incredibly proud to partner with the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training, and Skills Development on this work, and we're continuing to see the Level Up Career Fairs grow each year. Last year alone, over 30,000 students attended Level Up events across the province, and nearly half were young women exploring skilled trades for the first time. It's been amazing to watch them try our VR tools to see their eyes light up as they imagine themselves in this work. And those moments matter because they're not just discovering the trades, they're meeting women and women who are mentoring the next generation. The same message carries through in our latest marketing campaign, which highlights real women thriving in their chosen trades. They're leaders, entrepreneurs, and role models who are reshaping what leadership looks like. These stories remind us that leadership takes many, many forms. And when women can see themselves in these roles, they can imagine a future with no limits. And that message is resonating. We've seen millions of views and hundreds of thousands of clicks to our websites and social media platforms, all from people wanting to learn more. That's how we build true pathways to leadership, by ensuring that women who enter the trades have the support to grow, to lead, and to shape the future of the skilled trades in the province of Ontario and across the country. As we look ahead, let's keep asking ourselves the hard questions. How can we make every job site more welcoming for everyone? How can we ensure that mentorship and opportunity are built into every pathway? And how can we measure progress, not just in numbers, but in lasting impact? At Skilled Trades Ontario, we are committed to that work because the future of our construction industry depends on every talented person having a fair shot to contribute. So thank you again for your support and for the work that you do every single day, because every apprentice you hire, every barrier you help break moves us all forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace, for that wonderful keynote. We're so lucky to have you here with us today, and we can't wait to continue working with you in the future. So thank you again. So our first panel today is the state of women in construction. Every year we do have this panel as it provides key statistics and highlights the challenges women continue to face in construction. Today we are pleased to have Shaylee Allison, Emily Aerosmith, and Lisa Price join us. So as it get pulled up on the screen here, Shaylee Allison is a manager of marketing and engagement at BuildForce Canada, a national industry-led organization that supports the construction and maintenance sector with labor market information and workforce tools. Next, we have Emily Aerosmith, who is the Director of Research and Programs at the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. And lastly, we have Lisa Price, who is the Assistant Director of the LiUNA Local 183 Training Center. We often have Lisa on this panel, and she joins us every year to provide us with some great information on how the programs are going at the training center. So we will jump right into the panel today. So thank you all for being here. So for our first question, we'll look at Shaylee. So Shaylee, what is the landscape of women in construction with a focus on Ontario and residential?
Sure. Thanks for having me again. I really look forward to this event every year, and it's a big question. I think I kind of gave a little bit of a summary of this last year as well, and there's been a little bit of updates, so it's exciting to kind of come back to this. But I think kind of zooming out a little bit, Across Canada, there is about 1.3 million people that work in the construction industry. And as we've heard earlier in this webinar so far, about 13% of those 1.3 million are women. And it is a number that's grown modestly but steadily over the last decade or so. Looking at Ontario specifically, Ontario represents about 38% of the national construction workforce. So what happens here often has national impact, and we often see that the trends nationally also reflect what's happening in Ontario. So looking at women in Ontario's construction workforce specifically, in 2023 and similar in 2024, there are about 77,000, 80,000 women who worked in Ontario's construction sector. So that's about 13% of the provincial workforce, which we see also echoed in the national numbers following that trend. But breaking it down a little bit further, 26% of those women work on site in on site trades roles, which is about 20,000 women when you boil it down. So 74% of women working in the construction industry are working in off site roles, such as admin, estimating, HR, project management, etc. So it's pretty safe to say that women now represent about 5% of all on-site tradespeople in Ontario, and the 5% is a huge milestone. We hovered around 3%, 4% for years, and in 2023, we hit the high level of 5%, and that's pretty much stayed similar since. So it's slow but measurable progress. And just to kind of give you, I have a few metrics that I looked up just to pull in from our previous reports. And in 2015, women made up about 3% of on-site tradespeople. In 2022, that rose to about 4.4%. And we've seen a lot of growth through the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of young women joining the industry since then, which I'll get into in a bit. And in 2023, we hit that peak of 5%, which is the highest record ever recorded in Ontario for on-site women working in on-site trades. So specifically in the residential sector, and this is, like I said earlier, I love being part of this event, and I think this is a really interesting point when we're talking about women in construction, is that women are more represented in residential construction than in the other subsectors in the construction industry. So in residential trades overall, women make up nearly 6% of workers, which it seems like a small amount, but when you're really looking at the number of women that is, it's quite significant. And we see, especially in new home construction, that number can climb even higher to 7%, which is highest across all subsectors. So the residential industry is really offering like a key entry point for women to enter the industry. And that's where we see a lot of women working in the subsector in the construction industry. And something that's interesting and that we track year over year when we release our national forecast and our provincial forecast, looking specifically at what trades women are working in, and this kind of lends well to the residential sector piece, is that women are more likely to work in finishing trades than in other trades. So by finishing trades, we often see painting, drywall finishing, a lot of carpentry, and specifically like finishing carpentry, cabinetry, things like this. And apart from finishing trades, we also see women often working as electricians, site supervisors, and construction managers. So these just kind of gives you an idea of what roles women are working in, especially in the residential sector. These trends are pretty consistent across other provinces as well, but in Ontario especially, we see that kind of higher, like 7% number when it comes to the residential sector in Ontario. Something that I was talking about earlier is obviously there's been this like slow, steady growth over the last decade or 2 decades where we've kind of seen us go from 3.5% up to as much as 7%, specifically in the residential sector in Ontario. But over the last few years, I think especially since the pandemic and Gen Z or Gen Z entering the workforce with full-time jobs, since 2019, the number of young women, which we classify, we use Statistics Canada's definition of young people, which is 15 to 24. But since 2019, we've seen the number of young women aged 15 to 24 grow by 27%. That's just since 2019. So this data, usually we go back about a year. So this is only the last 5 years, we've had a 32%, or sorry, a 27% increase in the number of young women in the construction workforce in Ontario. That's huge. So I think we know by this point that recruitment is working and that I think generations are shifting, and Gen Z overall, especially young women, are looking at more like hands-on roles. And I think that the COVID-19 pandemic really sort of shone the light a little bit on different types of jobs and people looking for economic stability, people not necessarily going into university programs or different pathways for education in different trades. And I think we know that the pandemic kind of shifted our expectations in our society a little bit. So it's really promising for the sector to see that kind of growth. And I really hope that this trend continues. But I think this is definitely a sign that outreach and apprenticeship incentives and cultural shifts are making a real difference. And some of the programs that Candace White referred to earlier as well, things that Skilled Trades Ontario are doing and other organizations are doing across the province are really making a difference at the community level and then having an impact greater across the province. So I really hope to see this continue to increase. I think though, unfortunately, like we still have a critical challenge of retention. We see really big numbers with recruitment, especially with young women, but we know that retention remains a major issue. And I know that one of my fellow panelists, Emily from the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum, has really great data on this, especially when it comes to apprenticeship, and that she'll speak to. But we know that women often cite barriers on site, like lack of mentorship or job site culture, inadequate facilities and PPE, and the challenge of balancing caregiving with often rigid site work and commuting and things like this, right? So Ontario's Working for Workers Act, though, like now requires clean women-only washrooms and properly fitting PPE, which is great. And it's a huge milestone, especially in Ontario. And we're hoping that as a national org, we're hoping to see other provinces follow through with those kinds of mandates. And of course, these are really essential improvements, but implementation is a little bit inconsistent, especially for smaller sites, rotating sites, and like the practicality of it when you really get on site, depending on what state the project is at, right? So it's still a challenge, but I'm glad to see that kind of happen. I think also something, speaking from an Ontario lens right now, I think a lot of us are familiar with the current market downturn in the residential sector and the impact that it's potentially having on women in the sector. So I think Ontario's residential market, particularly in the GTA, has slowed down due to interest rate pressures, material costs, supply and demand, all that stuff, right? And I think that this creates a challenge for women because so many of us are entering the industry through residential roles. So with the market turned down, that sort of potential that it's narrowing the accessible pathways for women to enter the industry. And there's not really a lot of data on this yet because it's really been a 2024, 2025 issue that we've seen this downturn, especially in the GTA. But I do find that a little bit of a concern. And I hope that we can find other pathways for women. But since that is a reality, it's something that we're going to be watching for specifically. But I think kind of contrasting the challenge a little bit, and I know that this is something that I've spoken to you about, Meredith, previously, but I think an opportunity for women in the construction sector looking ahead is in modular and industrialized housing. And this is something that I think, we're talking about in Ontario, we're talking about across the country. We've heard the Prime Minister talk about Build Canada Homes, and we're talking about our housing crisis and how we just need to build more homes. And there's obviously no detailed data yet on women in modular and factory built housing, but I do think that the opportunity offers a lot of promise for women in the sector, because if you consider a lot of the challenges that women have working in the construction industry, and often the challenge of balancing caregiving for children, caregiving for elderly parents, trying to balance different things, having to commute potentially to different sites and navigate potential time between projects, time being unemployed. I think modular and industrialized housing potentially offers more stable hours, predictable shifts, indoor work, and centralized locations. So I think it's a possibility that the stability could help women balance a lot of the things that often remain challenges and barriers for them trying to balance a career in the construction sector, but also open doors and opportunities for women to work in the skilled trades in the residential sector, but in a little bit more of an industrialized environment. So I think overall, the state of women in construction in Ontario in the residential sector, we've seen measurable gains, especially over the last 5 years, especially with young women. And I think like others have said already on this webinar, to build a truly sustainable workforce, we need to retain those women, we need to improve site culture and supports, and we need to leverage new opportunities.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very detailed answer, and I know we could talk about this for hours. Um, but I think I have to say, on behalf of everyone at RESCON, we are so happy to hear that residential and new build in particular is leading the way for having women on site. So that is great news, 7%. We're very happy on our end about that. And obviously, we hope to continue to see that grow. We will move on to our second question, which is for Emily. So, CAF does an excellent job gathering data that highlights both the challenges and benefits faced by new apprentices. What trends are you currently seeing when it comes to women in the skilled trades?
Yeah, so we're seeing a huge opportunity in residential. If you look at our LMI Edge dash information, and this is looking at the demand for Red Seal certified tradespeople in the labor market. We know that there's going to be huge opportunity in residential. We can see trades like bricklayer, cabinet maker, carpenter, construction craft worker, painter, roofer. These are all key occupations in the province of Ontario where we are not training enough apprentices right now. We are not getting enough apprentices through the system right now to meet the demand for Red Seal certified journey persons. So there's a huge opportunity here. And let me just show you some slides about what's going on with apprentices. So we look at the total women registrations by sector for the country. And we can see we've divided the apprenticeable trades. We grouped the construction ones together. Then we had manufacturing and transportation. And when we look at the total women registrations, we can see that construction in 2022 was about 5.7% in Canada. And this is an increase from 2014, where it was 3.4%. So this is lower than the manufacturing sector, but it's higher than transportation. And it has been incrementally increasing over time. This is hugely important because apprenticeship is a main pathway that you get into the construction sector, and it is a main pathway to get your Red Seal. So it's very important we understand how many women are in the apprenticeship system. So we know that it's about 5.7% for construction. The latest data we have related to apprenticeship would be 2023. So we did the analysis, and we know that women are, as apprentices, new registrations, they're basically in 5 trades. Over 50% of them are in 5 trades: hairstylist, construction electrician, carpenter, welder, cook. The other women are in other Red Seal trades, representing 45%. So over 50% are in these 5 trades, and 2 of them would be residential, construction electrician, and carpenter. When we see the provincial breakdown, we still see that male apprentices are dominating in the apprenticeship system. So if you look at Canada, 89% of the people in the apprenticeship system are men, and about 11% are women. And that would include cooks and hairstylists, where women dominate. In Ontario, we can see that the number of women is 12% and 88% of men. And those figures really haven't changed too much in the past 20 years. For completion rates, we can see that historically, fewer women are completing their apprenticeship programs than men. This is concerning because it means that these women apprentices are not making it through the program. They're discontinuing their programs, and it means they're not getting their Red Seal. And we know the Red Seal is so important. The Red Seal helps you advance in your career, become a supervisor, a manager, a college instructor if you want. And it's key to being able to access permanent full-time employment. And people with a red seal earn a higher wage throughout their entire careers. But we can see a differential between men's completion rates and women's. Although in 2023, we can see the gap is narrowing. We still need to work on this and help support women getting through their programs. It's a very trade specific story when it comes to completion. And I'm happy to share these slides with you so you can look at them after. But I wanted to show you there's some key residential trades in here where men's completion rates would be significantly higher than women's completion rates. So you can see plumber, refrigeration and air conditioning mechanic, construction electrician, carpenter. We're seeing pretty big gaps there. So 43% of male apprentices are getting through the program, completing their carpenter apprenticeship, but only 22% of women. Construction electricians, 65% of men are completing, but only 43% of women. The one exception would be painters and decorators. When we look at painters and decorators, men and women's completion rates are very similar. About 42% of male painters and decorators complete their program, and about 40% of women painters and decorators complete their program. So some pretty big gaps in the residential trades when it comes to completion, but not for painters and decorators. Some of the challenges, so I have just been interviewing women in the Greater Toronto area who have just completed pre-apprenticeship programs. So keen on the trades. Talking to these women, I'm not sure we have a supply problem. These women are so keen. They want to get in these trades. They've been so excited to have the chance for the first time in their life to get their hands on the tools and to learn about all the processes at the college in the lab. They love it. They're in. And a lot of them want to be in the residential sector. They want to work in housing and help Canada address the housing shortage. But the number one barrier that they talk to me about in interviews would be finding an employer sponsor. They cannot find anyone who is willing to take them on as a level 1 apprentice. We know that's a challenge across Canada, but these women from Ontario, especially in the Southern Ontario area, are saying it's just a huge problem to find an employer sponsor right now. That means if you can't get registered, you can't start your journey as an apprentice. The second barrier would be bullying and harassment at the workplace. So women apprentices are more likely to report mental health challenges than men, and they're more likely to report having depression and anxiety and being on some kind of prescription for their depression and anxiety. And it does relate to how they're treated at the workplace. There's also stressors such as balancing school and work, or as Shaylee said, the rigid construction times, and then your kid gets sick, you have to take them to an appointment. So a lot of stressors around just navigating the apprenticeship, trying to go to technical training, trying to get your hours at work, trying to make it through the system. There's a lack of mentoring at the workplace. Studies show that a male journey person will identify that a male apprentice is more likely to be successful. So that's where they're going to invest their time and their energy, and women don't get the same opportunities. Other common barriers, which would be common for apprentices across the board, would be not being released to go on your technical training, so not being allowed to go to school so that you can progress to the next level. You're holding yourself back from going to technical training because you're on reduced income when you have to go on EI, and then test anxiety related to passing that 4-hour multiple choice test, which is how you get your red seal. So really vital that we provide women the learning supports that they need so that they have good study habits and they can make it through and pass that multiple choice test. So I think I'll just stop there.
Perfect. I think I will open the floor to everyone on the panel to see if anybody has anything to add. I know you really went in depth there about the challenges that women are facing right now. So I don't know if maybe Lisa or Shaylee have anything to add.
I was just gonna say, I think Emily's data is amazing, and I really appreciate that she brought slides and visuals because I think it really helps kind of illustrate the difference that we have between men and women, especially in some of the trades. I think just to kind of clarify, and for those attending the webinar today who aren't really as familiar with like Red Seal versus not Red Seal, I think when I was speaking earlier and speaking to some of our data points, we track not just Red Seal, we're tracking everyone that's working in the industry. And I think something else to note, like Emily pointed out, of course, there's a few trades mentioned that often come up in our top 5 for women that actually aren't Red Seal trades. So, for example, drywall finishing is not a Red Seal trade, although there are unions that do have drywall finishers as part of their union group. It's not a Red Seal. So I think that just to kind of highlight that there are more opportunities outside of Red Seal, but Red Seal is tremendously important, and we're trying to right now, as Emily spoke to, and this is not uniquely a women's issue. It's a greater issue in the industry where completion rates have unfortunately declined, as Emily showed in her presentation. But we need journey people to supervise people who are completing their apprenticeships to become journey people. So it's like this cycle that we're going through as we find ourselves in this sea of retirements and veterans sort of leaving the industry in the last few years and for the next few years. Unfortunately, there's more journey people retiring, but we're not having people become journey people actually completing their apprenticeship. So the pool of journey people is getting smaller, which is creating less opportunities for first and second year apprentices to have opportunities to do their apprenticeship under a journey person. So unfortunately, it's like this cycle is getting the smaller and smaller and smaller, and the opportunities are getting less. And it's just I just wanted to clarify that and sort of highlight the importance of what Emily was saying about Red Seal trades, but also just kind of broaden the conversation a little bit to kind of illustrate how there are a handful of trades that aren't necessarily Red Seal that are still very popular among women in the industry.
No, and I think that's a great point, just because, as we all know, our industry is not necessarily doing the best right now, but we do know that we will have to fill these positions in future years. So we still need those people coming through and completing their apprenticeships. I think, Lisa, you might have something to add here as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say too, to just to reference one of Emily's points about talking about sponsorship and trying to find a sponsor that is willing to take on these individuals and these women that are looking to pursue their apprenticeship. One of the things that we are able to do, we have a unique position where we're able to be the sponsor as well as the training delivery agent. So for us as a training center linked to LIUNA and to 183 is that we can be the sponsor, which sort of helps maybe draw in some additional women where perhaps they may not be able to, go to an employer straight away, but they can sign up with us. We're technically the sponsor on their agreement. So we're noted to be responsible to follow their pathway, to ensure they're coming back for level 2, challenging the exam. So if there's more opportunities for that to happen, then I think, and the light in my office is going off on live. Sorry about that. There's no movement. But yeah, I think that also sort of might help a little bit when there's opportunities for us to be both the sponsor and deliver the training, because it sort of opens up more opportunities for women who are having difficulty to find that employer to support them right out of the gate.
Definitely. So I think with that, we'll move on to our final question, which is for Lisa. So, from the union's perspective, have more women joined the union? If so, are retention rates improving? How do you view the union's role in attracting and retaining more women, and what strategies have been put in place to support that?
Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank RESCON because you all do a fabulous job. I mean, we have a close relationship with RESCON, obviously sitting on our board and being present and giving input and impact to us overall with regards to training. So I thank you for letting me be a part of this, quite often. So I'm happy for that. But I think with respect to the union and what we're doing in linking with the union as well as the training center, and I know it's going to sound a little bit maybe trivial at the beginning, but I think social media presence is so important. I realize that now, where I was initially sort of a little bit, when social media became a thing, I was reluctant to start promoting us on social media because of sort of that trolling and the negative impact and the negative comments, that people would make. But I'm noticing that as we're continuing to grow and really push that social media agenda, we are featuring more and more women apprentices on the job site. And I think when you do that to start with, is you're already now saying, listen, you see me, I'm here. And then other women are saying, well, I look like you. I sort of have the same situation. I'm raising a family, whether I am or I'm not. At least I know I'm capable and I can do this because I'm starting to see myself in the people that are being showcased on both the unions and the training center's social media platforms. Our business manager, Jack Oliveira, is really big on that. We've also noticed in terms of our numbers, just at union meetings for, our perspective here at 183, we're able to now see a large contingent of women that are present at these union meetings. And I've been here for 18 years and I've been going to monthly meetings probably for about, 10 or 12. And there's, women here and there, and some of them, worked here. So that's as far as you would see in terms of the presence of women in those union halls. And now we're seeing like the front two rows are like, rows of women, and there's women's groups and they're meeting on social media and they're having conversations. And there's like, women's groups that they can, chat and talk about their experiences on those job sites. In addition to that, we are part of the conference for the national building trades, where we're sending a lot more of our women members, our journey persons, our site supervisors, our health and safety representatives. They are now attending this conference, where as before, when it started, we would have maybe 3 or 4 women attending, 5 or 6 small groups of union members that were chosen to attend. And now that group is getting larger and larger. So I think that really says a lot about the presence of women that we're seeing. Even though it's not where we want it, it's still getting better. It's on the uptick as opposed to declining. Retention, you're right, as discussed by both panelists, it's difficult because of other factors that women obviously experience being caregivers. Traditionally, they are the caregivers. They're moms. They're trying to balance schedules. Most of my apprentices that come through will say that to me. It's difficult with children, but I'll do it, Lisa, whatever it takes. I'll be on that job site. I will manage. I'll make it happen. So whatever resources, even provincially, that are available to them, and anywhere that the province can increase those incentives and those benefits, is always a plus, because that's going to help our female apprentices have maybe more flexibility with childcare, or being able to bring other parties, into a system so that they can be on that job site and lead toward completion. In addition to that, too, I also feel as though just seeing other members coming through even our training, and even not existing members, when we're recruiting, we're partnering with school boards, we're reaching out to women's groups, we're targeting the YWCA, we meet with our partners like Building Up, we work with Oaks Revitalization, we work with Blue Door, other agencies that really help us bring in women into the trades. And I'm noticing even in my recruitment talks, where we're having upwards of 80 individuals coming in to just get a spot in one of our programs, whether it be construction craft worker, or even our residential programs that focus on things like trim carpentry or handy person. We're seeing the numbers of women coming in for those recruitment meetings increasing, and I'm happy about it. In our last apprenticeship class, we actually had 3 women, which, out of a class of 10 or 12, that's a big deal. And they did phenomenally well, and they all went to work, and they're all still working. We had a handyman program, or sorry, excuse me, a handy person program. I apologize for that. We had a handy person program where we had a woman who was actually one of the key trainees in that class. She was the youngest. She was a female. She was the only female in the class, and she did exceptionally well. And one of the builders took her on, and she's still currently working. So it's huge to see things like that, especially in residential construction. And we know there's more opportunities out there. We have to just continue to keep pushing that agenda, keep recruiting, show women that their presence is valued, it's important, and we need to ensure that they have safe workplaces, places where they can feel that they can express themselves, express when perhaps things aren't going their way, where they're experiencing harassment, where they're experiencing unfair work practices, and the union being there to support them and having their union reps fight for them when these situations happen is also something I think I want to give credit to the union for really stepping up. A lot of these men who are our union representatives are really dialed into women's experiences and what they're dealing with, and open to knowledge. The training center has put on sessions for them to talk about how there are gender issues on those job sites, and how it's important to understand experiences are different for everyone, and they're open to it. And just being open to hear other perspectives and understand, it makes them a better union rep. It makes them a better, for myself, a better recruiter, a better apprenticeship manager. And I think that these are sort of all initiatives that we're working towards, but still know that there's room for improvement.
I think that was a great answer to that question. And I think we can all be very happy knowing that not only are more women in the training programs, but they're also very successful in these programs as well. I also love your social media piece, just because if we're trying to attract more young women, I think that's a great avenue to explore. And we can definitely keep working on that moving forward. We have about 4 minutes left in the panel, and I think I'm going to put you all on the spot. I think we'll go in our speaking order. So, Shaylee, I will start with you. So, if you had a magic wand, what would be the one change you'd make to help retain more women in construction?
It's a big question, Meredith. There's a lot of things I would do. Um, I definitely think that childcare and elder care are elder care increasingly becoming a hot topic, a big challenge. And I think traditionally, yes, like women do take on a lot of these caregiving roles. Um, but I think that if the provincial government, if the federal government could put together some sort of incentive to try and find solutions to these challenges, finding childcare, finding elder care. I think that holistically solving those problems would also help with retention and recruitment in this industry for sure. So if I could wave a magic wand and get rid of the long-term care waiting list and get rid of the child care waiting list, I think that we would see a lot more people be a lot more successful when pursuing a skilled trade.
Great answer. We will move on to Emily next.
I really like the impact that Don't Be a Bystander programs are having. So it's a program in BC, and they actually work with construction people on work sites and they have real talk, and they try to address gender issues to make workplaces more inclusive and welcoming. And I really support that kind of work. So I think that would really support retention.
Perfect. And then last, we will move on to Lisa. You are on mute.
My apologies. There we
That's all
go.
good.
One thing I didn't mention is, and I think might be my wish too, and our employers are definitely getting better, but having, I guess, more acceptance through our employers and through meetings that we're having with them, with our union partners and through the training center, bringing employers to the table to really open their doors to more women in sectors that, even within residential, that maybe we don't see as many women as we would like to see. So I if I had my magic wand, there would be even more employers that sort of are on board. And I know it's getting better, but again, there's always room for improvement. But I would love to see, just more employers sort of, if they have to sort of insist and say, listen, we're going to have a female apprentice and it's going to happen. And this is what's, you're going to figure it out and we're all going to be okay. And she's going to do really well and it's going to be fine. And then it's going to lead to even more and more women being present on those job sites.
Perfect. Well, I would just like to thank you all for being here today. And we are so lucky to work with such strong leaders, and not only strong leaders, strong female leaders. And I hope we can all work together to continue to improve the number of women on site and the number of women that decide to choose this as a career. So thank you again. And we will move on to our poll questions with Andrew.
Perfect. So thanks again to everyone. Um, Emily, if you do have a couple minutes, there are two questions in the question and A that were addressed to you. And so we normally would answer the questions ourselves, but if you can, Emily, we'd love it if you could answer them. Okay. While we figure out the pinning, I'm going to start launching the poll questions. And so this is a bit of an interactive piece that we do every round. Sorry. Figure this out. I'll let Meredith and Yasmin figure out the pinning. Okay, so we're going to move into the poll questions. And as we launch that, we do this for every year, and we do the same questions because we want to see how they've changed time over time. So if you're listening at home, please come back to your computer. It's 7 quick questions and we'll go through it. The first one is to get us to know a little bit about the audience. And so I think everybody can see it now, and please click your answer. And so who are you representing? Who are you hired by? Builder, developer, union rep, government, subtrade, or other? And then we do have stats from last year to figure that out as well. So, and I assume so we'll give everyone a couple more seconds here to answer. We could get a little bit more participation, which would be great. So anyone who can hear this can come back to your computer and try and answer the questions. That's great. So we'll end the poll and we'll share the results. Okay, and so as in similar years, ResCon members obviously make up the bulk at about 38%, and other, we think our categories are fairly all-encompassing, but I guess we got to broaden it a bit. But it is good to see a diverse representation. So. And now we'll go to question 2. We'll launch that. So what percentage of women are employed by your employer in office? This is single choice. So not everyone's going to know the exact answer, but if you can take a guess, that's great. Last year, the most popular answer by far was more than 50%, and the second most popular was 25 to 50%. So we'll give everyone a couple more seconds here to answer this question. Okay. And to share the results. So we are seeing similar. It's a little bit, I guess, less, but still fairly consistent. And so it looks like in office, we still have a very strong percentage of women in the construction industry. Moving to question 3. Okay, what percentage of women are employed by your employer on site? This is on site. So we'll give people time to answer that. Okay, a couple more seconds for everyone to answer. Okay, and so what we see here is actually an increase, and so less than 10%. So hopefully that's at the higher end. I think we did hear some encouraging stats in the presentation, but obviously we've still got a little bit more work to do. I think the more than 50%, though, that has certainly increased. So that is very interesting. Now we'll move to question 4. So what are the top challenges or what are the top challenges to hiring more women? If everyone can answer that. So not enough women interested, small labor pool, workplace culture, physical infrastructure, bathroom change rooms, having trouble joining a union if required. Other, write your answer in the chat, please. We do expect this one to have changed since we first launched it, because obviously there's been the legislative requirements, and certainly there's been a large focus in the last 5 years of improving on-site conditions and physical infrastructure for women. So I have everybody a couple more seconds to answer. Okay, and we'll stop it here. So we are seeing a bit of change here. So the number one was not enough women interested. Um, Last year, that was the number one, but it's come down by over 10%. And workplace culture has improved by about 10% as well. And so those are two interesting trends as well. Moving to question 5. What are the top challenges with respect to retaining women? I'll give everyone a couple more seconds here to answer. Okay. And so the number one was hours, followed by lack of mentorship and workplace culture. Uh, Last year it was hours and lack of mentors and workplace culture. So we know that we still continue to have issues there. Um, Physical infrastructure has decreased significantly, though. And so that is very exciting to see. We'll move to question 6. Is getting more women into construction a strategic priority for your company? I'm going to give everyone a couple more seconds to answer there. And so this is somewhat similar to last year. There hasn't been a big change there. It still is a priority. Maybe this year it feels like it's a little bit less of a priority. I think there is a downturn going on in the residential sector. And so um, it'd be interesting to see if this is related to if hiring's not a priority because some companies are experiencing layoff or companies are experiencing layoff right now. This obviously would then impact the number of women that you're able to hire. So we'll have to dig into that one a little bit more. And then we'll go to the 7th question. Are you are you aware of a mentorship program within your current workplace? Have you participated? So we'll give everyone a couple more questions here. And so sharing results, it does look like there's an increase in mentorship as well as participation. There's a slight decrease in people without a mentorship program, but there is a little bit more uncertainty as to whether or not one exists. Um, so I'm going to stop sharing here. I think these results will obviously be shared with everybody um, who's attending, and it's good for us to continue to monitor these trends on a year-on-year comparison. As we know, this year is not as good as it was last year. We are in a bit of a downturn, and unfortunately, it looks like that downturn may continue for a bit. But getting women into construction, whether we're in a recession or not, is still a top priority. And so it's good to collect this data, and we will continue to share it with the group. And now I will turn it over to Yasmin for our next panel.
Perfect. Thanks, Andrew. So next up, we have a presentation from Maggie Hall from Tridel. She is the Senior Manager of Social Impact. She's been with Tridel for 6 years, managing Tridel's portfolio on social impact initiatives, including diversity, equity, and inclusion, Indigenous reconciliation, community economic development, and more. So with that, I'm just going to pass it over to Maggie. We are so happy to have you join us again this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yasmin, and thank you again, RESCON, for having me back. I was going to introduce myself, but you already did it, so we're all good. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. All right, and Yasmin, can you just confirm screen is shared? Things are happening?
Yeah, you're all good.
Awesome. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you again for welcoming me as part of this annual event. Happy to be here. Happy to chat about what our organization is doing, and if there's anything that folks on this call can take from some of the work that we're trying to advance when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and advancing women within our organization, both at our corporate offices, but also on site. Please do, and you're more than welcome to put questions in the Q&A as the presentation goes, and I'll answer as many as I can and make myself available afterwards if you'd like to have a tete-a-tete on how you can sort of do the same for your organization, or maybe there's things that I might be missing that you want to contribute. One of my mentors always said, all boats rise when we work together. So the main focus for today is the Elevate Mentorship Program. And this is a new initiative that was started and launched officially in March of 2025, because we absolutely know how important the role of mentorship is for all employees. It doesn't matter any gender, any age. Mentorship is just, the practice of learning from someone who's been through it before. And we always love to see that mentorship can go both ways. We know that there's a ton of new innovations that are, coming up for folks who are entering the workforce, in Gen Z. They're far more, likely to use technology. However, there's no substitute for experience. And so we love to see this sort of upload and download of information that takes place in a mentorship relationship. So the main goal is to foster career and personal growth through these relationships, focusing on sharing expertise and experiences. And it allows participants to be a little bit more empowered in their own brand and who they are, take opportunities to build leadership, and then, of course, creating, this next generation of industry talent and leaders. We absolutely created this program to promote inclusivity learning, and also to bring people over. So when there's mentorship and when there's strong support in your growth, people end up valuing those aspects in a future employer. What I will also say is that this is the first year of the program, and we chose to pilot with women first. So it has 10 pairs, and that is, 10 senior women leaders, and then 10 sort of more junior women employees. So one thing that I do want to share and was asked, and in this environment of DE&I, of where there's a few more questions that come up around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And some folks said, well, mentorship is really important for everyone. Why are you doing women first? Why is this pilot extended to women first? And it was interesting because I was actually having a conversation with a colleague of mine who is a man, and he was asked this question by a fellow colleague who is a man around why women first. And so he shared the analogy that he used with this person. And I thought it was so good that I ripped it off and I shared it with everybody in the program. So the golf analogy is, and I mean, construction people will love this because, my goodness, we loved golf. Golfing and golf courses have traditionally been a space where men occupy and men are. More recently, we've seen more women joining these courses, joining these clubs. And what we've found over time is that, sharing lessons around golf tends to be somewhat, nepotistic, but it also is, how to play golf, what are the ins and outs, the hazards on the course, lending people clubs, materials, and then, of course, the socializing that takes place afterwards. So what we've found is at Tridel, we have about 25% of senior leaders are women, which is pretty good, but obviously could be better. And so what we found with this mentorship program is that senior leaders who are women, and again, this is where the metaphor comes in, that they play golf differently. They play the course differently. They might approach the greens differently. They might use a different set of clubs. They might, carry themselves differently in the clubhouse. And so what the benefit of a mentorship program is that focuses on women supporting women is that these types of adapted lessons can be passed down. Furthermore, when you see it, you can be it. And so that is the main reason why we chose to go with women first, and why I like this golf analogy, that we're all trying to play the same course. So be part of that world of construction, but how we approach that course and how we approach the interactions while we're playing the game might be slightly different. And it's great to hear from someone who may have already gone through it before you. So the goals of the Elevate program I'm not going to read directly off the slide, but leadership development, career development, equity and inclusion, and that retention piece. So these are all, really, really critical aspects, and we have developed KPIs in terms of how well this program is actually working to support people's growth and development. That's through performance management. That's through how frequently folks are able to work together, whether there's any stretch opportunities. Something that's also really important that I do want to highlight is that these mentorship relationships are never between the same departments. And that was a conscious decision so that we have folks from, people and culture who are paired with planning, people from project management who are paired with folks in our interior design team. So we wanted to focus on the career development and these sort of, and I hate when people call it soft skills, because soft skills are so difficult to master. But the purpose of this program was not pairing, people from the same department so that they could grow within that department. It was really to develop some of those soft skills so that they could sort of develop their own progression plan. So as I mentioned, 10 mentors, 10 mentees. Everyone is still in the program. Everyone is still meeting. Every pair must meet at least once a month, and we provided a number of different templates and resources and coaching on how best to create shared goals and how to stay accountable to those goals as well. We also knew it was really important to structure events and some capacity building sessions. So again, these resources that we provided, we wanted to facilitate some learning and development for folks. We've had a couple group activities, and then we'll have a closeout meeting sometime in March of 2026. And probably the most important aspect to this is we've already collected data for the first 6 months of just sort of taking a bit of a temperature check on how the program is going. Our intention is to make this program company-wide. And so I always feel bad saying this, but our first pilot group are somewhat of our guinea pigs. We're asking them what kind of events, feel the best. What have they taken the most from? Do they like sort of, we went to the Art of Leadership conference, which I'll talk about in a second. We've done more intimate training sessions. So which is, or is it a balance? So anyways, data collection is really, really critical and part of the deliverables of this program. So speaking of some of the work and action of this program, so that Art of Leadership conference happens every year down at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. It has a number of keynote speakers who are, really, really impressive women from a variety of different sectors. So obviously my favorite was Christine Sinclair. So I tossed her in as being one of those speakers, but typically they feature women who are thought leaders, business leaders, many of whom have published works. And it was a really inspiring session for all 20 of us to be able to go to, and then to create and stimulate conversations afterwards. Another activity that we've done, now this one is really, really special, and two of my colleagues who are actually a pair within the program approached and said, hey, is it possible that we organize something like this? So when I talk about, the mentorship program, it's not just, leadership, prescribing and organizing activities. There's also some opportunity for folks who are involved in the program itself to take their growth and leadership in their own hands. So we hosted an event at the Well featuring 3 guest speakers, one of whom is in real estate, one is a lifestyle influence, and then the other is a financial advisor and planner. So again, multitude of industries represented, but also those industries sometimes where women aren't typically the most represented or historically have faced quite a few barriers. So we had conversations around like the realities of what they've all experienced in their own trajectory. And then we had a social event after the fact where we featured various things that were procured from women-owned businesses. So walking the walk. Okay, and then the final thing, which actually just took place this week. So this was a blank, empty slide until like yesterday. So our VP of People and Culture, who's been at other sort of multinational organizations and has led learning and development, hosted a session called You Inc. And this is really taking ownership of your own brand and making sure that the leaders that are being developed within Tridel have their own sort of spin on how they want to lead within the organization. We're not creating, cookie cutter leaders within the organization, because we know that obviously different jobs, different departments, different teams require a different sort of set of skills. And so this session was really designed in order to evoke some thoughts around what makes you you, what do you want to like polish off and make your defining feature, and what are things that you might need to sort of pivot around and try and refine. Or in the easiest way to explain it is stop, start, and continue. So it was a really, really fruitful session. We had everyone involved in the program was able to attend either in person or virtually, and we provided some resources around that. And one thing I just wanted to highlight for the folks who are on this call is this sort of circle of growth, this circle of career growth, if you will. So it really starts with taking a bit of a temperature check on where you're at right now. The next is establishing where do you want to go. If it is, you want to be in a different department, you want to be at a different level or layer of leadership, but really establishing where you want to go. Step 3 is that reality check. Do I have what it takes to do that now? Or what are the things that I actually need to do in order to get there? And that's where you create that action plan. So some of the resources that we provided to our Elevate participants were really around crafting that action plan and asking the tough questions and making sure that this isn't done in a vacuum. You've got allies, you've got your mentor, and you've got, of course, your colleagues who you can ask these very open and honest questions with, or you can do it anonymously as well. But it was a really great session, and just got people thinking that just because I'm not, the loudest in the room, doesn't mean that I can't lead. And so it's so important when you have a mentorship program to ensure that people feel as though how they want to lead is embraced. So that came out from this session this week, which was excellent. So I just have a couple of some of the folks who are actually in our mentorship program, and I asked them, these are also mentors, I should say, what was some of the best mentorship advice that you ever got? So Anita is an amazing salesperson who's been with Tridel for, I believe, over 20 years. And what she's gotten from her mentors is when you lead with integrity and live with authenticity, self-doubt loses its power and your true potential begins to shine. Making sure you say, yes, you can. And this woman definitely lives by this: integrity, authenticity, grace, and perspective. Carry these with you and you'll always lead with purpose. Annette, classic project manager. So she's been given a lot of advice and it is more than willing to share that. Annette has also been part of some of the most complex projects that Tridel has ever done, including the well and then One Bloor West as well. So of course, be a sponge, soak up that knowledge, be okay with mistakes happening, just as long as you're learning from them. Again, this is probably the most project management thing ever that you'll see. Having that plan A, B, and C, trying to stick as much to plan A as you can, but make sure you've always got a fallback and a contingency. And then ring it all out. So this is that download, upload concept, sharing knowledge around, sharing knowledge with those around you. If you are, keeping all of these good, tidbits with you, if you ever leave the organization, they leave with you. So making a big difference in someone's, day to day can just be as simple as showing them ticks. Oh, this is a funny analogy, tricks of the trade. And then our final person, Tessa, is with customer experience. She's been with Tridel for, I think, about 8 years. And her best advice is don't measure your success by how busy you are, measure it by the impact that you make. So if you can see sort of some common threads through our mentors, it's centered around integrity, it's centered around supporting others, it's centered around impact. Okay, and so the Elevate Mentorship Program is absolutely a key program as part of our broader people and culture strategy, incorporated in our future Blueprint to Lead, which is a leadership and development system for all employees at the organization. So mentorship is a critical component to that. But Tridel is about supporting women in more than just one way. And so this is a really cool initiative. And if you have the space to do this at your workplace, it is easier than you think to organize. But every year for the past 3 years, I think this will be our 4th in March, is we have an International Women's Day Small Business Market. So this is where we invite women-owned businesses to come to our office, and we just have a day where we invite every member of the Tridel group of companies to come out and do a little bit of shopping. We promote businesses that are owned and operated by Toronto community housing tenants, as we have relationships within Alexandra Park and Regent Park. And so providing these types of avenues for women within those communities might not be sort of a sole source of income, but it's definitely sort of a side hustle for them. So this is something, if you are ever interested in organizing something like this, it is way easier than you think. So happy to share how you can do it for your colleagues as well. One thing that's folks on this call may or may not know about Tridel, but we are the principal and founding sponsor of the Bolt Foundation. So we continue to support them now and into the future. And they have a number of grants and opportunities specifically for young women who are looking to enter the trades. And then this is where I'm kind of gonna end it off. I got one more sort of closing thought, but we work to create, dedicated employment pathways for folks who are considered equity deserving. So that women is in that as well. We do quite a bit of in community philanthropy and engagement. We try to sort of, when we talk about the awareness of opportunities within construction and development, we're hosting something called the Engineer for a Day on November 14th with one of our engineer consultants, EXP, bringing about 30 high school aged kids to learn about the breadth and diversity of careers in engineering. The Bolt Foundation, scholarship programs are so important. Sometimes that is the easiest and most straightforward ways for folks to get out of a current situation, is to pursue that education either at college, post-secondary, or pre-apprenticeship. And then, of course, community projects, making sure that there's safe spaces for folks to thrive and be able to enjoy their neighborhoods safely. And on that note, this is, my gosh, AI is so weird. So when you distill it down to whether you're supporting women or you're supporting other folks who are equity deserving, the distinction between equality and equity is so important here. And equity is about giving people what they need in order to succeed. Of course, we want every opportunity to be available to every person ever. But the reality is some folks need additional layers of support, more so than others. If we're seeing anything around, what some of the other panelists were saying around retention and making sure that women get to that next stage, we need to interrupt that cycle where we say, okay, they're in the industry, perfect, hands off, we're done. No, we need to make sure that they are supported, they've got an outlet, and that they have allies who are there to defend them, of any gender, and that when women see it, they can be it, and we just need a little bit more of that. So with that, I'm all done. Thanks so much for the opportunity to present. If there's any questions, happy to answer. And I'll put my contact information in the chat if you'd like to reach out and have a conversation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Maggie. This program seems like an amazing way for women to learn and grow within the industry and learn new skills from some of the best. I also really love the golf analogy. It's very fitting for our industry. Everyone loves to golf. Even if you don't know how, it's a lot of fun. Everyone plays the game differently, right? But I think we do have a few questions for you. So I can just go right into those. So first question, what was an unexpected benefit of the program?
So I'm part of the program. I'm a mentor myself, so maybe I'll just speak kind of from my own personal experience. And I think one of the unexpected benefits that I found in my own pairing is just actually watching her come out of her shell. She's quite shy, and I mean, I'm not shy. So watching her come out of her shell and being able to see the power of mentorship in the span of 6 months, I didn't really expect to feel that as intrinsically as I did. And when she comes every month and says, "Hey, I had a little success here, a little success here, I had a little problem here. How do we work through this?" Um, it's amazing to see that advice be put into practice and to watch how it's contributing positively to her confidence in her role.
That's amazing. And I'm sure you make a great mentor. So next question. When it came to the implementation, what was easier than expected and what was harder than you expected? I guess that just speaks to the overall program.
Yeah, what was easier than expected is our leadership was really gung ho on it and said, yeah, would love to have a formalized mentorship program. We've been doing informal mentorship, forever. Um, and that was like, I was very pleasantly surprised that everybody was just so enthusiastic about it and loved the idea that, while we would pilot with women, that we would then expand it to the entire organization. Something that was a little harder than expected is we had quite a few more people apply for the program than we had mentors for. And so we used a couple of different tools at our disposal in order to match people kind of based on A, what you wanted to get out of the program, but B, also what your learning style was. Because mentors teach in a certain way and mentees wanted to learn in a certain way. So it was harder than I thought to have to say, I'm so sorry. Like, it doesn't mean anything about your, career trajectory. It doesn't mean anything about, how you are as a person. It just means like it's based on fit between like the pairs that we have here. So that was a little bit harder than it was a little sad.
Yeah, of course. You want to take everybody in at that
Yeah.
point, right? And I like that you pair people with different um,
Departments.
departments within your company. So then you learn a little bit from everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. So we have another question here. So this one's saying, my company wants to start a mentorship program, but I don't know where to start. So what advice would you have for them?
Oh my gosh. Ever heard of Microsoft Copilot? No, sorry. In all seriousness, there's a couple of accessible resources online. I believe, and take this however you will, but Walmart actually has a really good mentorship program, and so some of their resources are available online. So, but in order to get started, I think you need to make sure that there's structure. So the reason why our program, I think, is as successful as it is because we set expectations super clearly as to what the mentorship relationship was going to be. You're not providing like personal guidance. So saying kind of like the do's and the don'ts. You're not providing like career advice. You're providing professional development advice. The expectation is that you meet for 1 hour every single month. So we had the expectations set very clearly from the get-go. And we also knew what kind of events and capacity building things we wanted to do along the way. And again, there's only been 3. And like quantity does not mean quality. Quality means quality. So be intentional with the types of professional development things that you want to do, either with mentors, mentees, or both. But yeah, if you have an AI tool, toss it in there. Like I know sort of it kind of takes away the human creativity a bit, but it's really helpful to just kind of get those creative juices flowing. And you can add in some prompts into Copilot as an example and saying, I don't know how my organization is going to take this. Can you just give me some advice on change management and how to, present this as an idea to our leaders? And you'd be surprised what it comes out with.
I can only imagine AI is a whole different field from what we're used to now. But I do have someone in the chat actually asking if you could provide like a short summary about the golf analogy, if you have a chance when you throw in.
Like right now or when I share my slides?
When you share your slides, that would be fine.
Yeah. I'll toss it onto the slide itself. Again,
Perfect.
I'm going to use AI to condense what I said
Yeah.
in 30 seconds down to
That's okay.
a
That's
quick
perfect.
paragraph.
Well, thank you so
For
much,
sure.
Maggie. I think that's all the time we have today for you. I really appreciate you being here again and all the best with your program. It sounds like it's going really well for you guys. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks.
And thank you very much for being here.
No No worries.
Perfect. So we are going to move on to our next panel. It's a great segue based on Maggie's presentation. Our next panel is focusing on career advancement within on and off the tools. And I would like to introduce Jennifer Green, Rocky, and Clarice Ward. I'm just going to start by giving a quick introduction for each speaker. I'm just going to start with Jennifer. So Jennifer is recognized for her remarkable journey in a male-dominated field, leaving an indelible mark as a pioneer for women in non-traditional careers in the skilled trades. Transitioning from a Red Seal industrial mechanic millwright, her journey is marked with a commitment to advocacy and leadership in the skilled trades community. Currently, she is the Director of Competitions and Business Development at the Skills Ontario, a not-for-profit in Ontario promoting the skilled trades and technologies to youth. Jennifer operates the key leadership roles in orchestrating Canada's largest skilled trades event, the Skills Ontario's competition, and she effectively manages her team with a comprehensive operation supervising a diverse array of components. Among her accolades, she's presented with the Colleges Ontario Premiers Award, the WXN's Canada's Most Powerful Women's Award, Universal Women's Network Women of Inspiration Award, and the Conestoga College Alumni of Distinction Award. So welcome, Jennifer. I'm just going to introduce Rock really quickly as well. So Rock Gee, also known as Rock, is the Stakeholder Relations Lead at Carpenters Regional Council and Ontario Chair of Sisters in the Brotherhood. A proud carpenter, quadrilingual certified coach, and mentor, she is celebrated for empowering youth and newcomers to thrive in the skilled trades. She is a George Brown College construction engineer technical graduate and began her career in construction before moving into telecommunications. In 2020, she reignited her passion in construction by joining the Carpenters Union, where she continues to champion inclusion, leadership, and opportunity. She's volunteered for over 3 decades with several nonprofit organizations across various industries, building homes with Habitat for Humanity, leading construction projects for the Food with Poor Canada, and mentoring through TCBN, OBCT, and TRIAC. Her leadership has earned her multiple honors, including the WXN Top 100 Canada Most Powerful Women, Top 100 Most Accomplished Black Canadian Women, and the UBC National Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Award of Excellence. Welcome, Rock. And finally, Clarice. She is the account manager, building constructions at Hilti. It's a multinational company known for its cutting-edge technology, power tools, fastening systems, and software design for the professional users in the construction industry. Prior to Hilti, Clarice spent 17 years in the construction industry, starting as a laborer, completing a carpentry apprenticeship, and in construction health and safety. From there, she was the first tradeswoman at the time to have risen into a construction project management at Ontario's largest open shop general contractors. And then Clarice is the 2023 recipient of the Professionals Over 40 category at the KW Oktoberfest Women of the Year, 2021 recipient of Canada's Most Powerful Women, Top 100 in the Emerging Leadership category, the 2019 recipient of the Premier's Award in the Apprenticeship category, and the highest award in the Ontario College System, the Alumni of Distinction at Conestoga College in 2018, and she currently serves on the Board of Directors at Skills Ontario. With that, welcome, ladies. It is so great to have you. This seems like an amazing panel. You all have had amazing careers and an incredible journey, each different from the other. And I would like to ask if you could just start off by telling everybody a little bit about your journey through these skilled trades. And I think we can start with Jennifer. So just like a little quick background on your journey.
Yeah, I was actually going to university for forensic criminology, and I had the opportunity to go into skilled trades through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program when I was in high school. I had 3 generations of skilled trades before me, never thought of it as a career. I had a 4.0 GPA. Everyone was like, yeah, you're university bound. There was no other thought whatsoever to put me into trades, well, although my father's role, my grandfather's role, and so on and so forth. When I had the opportunity for co-op and OYAP, it gave me a whole other life and realm that was available. I was already taking tech classes, but honestly, I used them as a bird course. I flew through them. I used that high grade average to use in my university application. Again, never thinking about it as a career because that was the stereotype, that was the stigma, that was pushed to me. And I went down that road until I changed that direction. So I started off going university bound, ended up in trades, and have been an advocate and a promoter for skilled trades and women in trades for over 2 decades in the province. And like Rock, I have volunteered at countless different organizations, women in trade groups, companies, trying to spread that word, change the narrative. Thank you, Yasmin.
Perfect. Rock, would you like to give us a little background on your journey as well?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci beaucoup pour cette invitation. Je suis très honorée et je suis vraiment contente d'être ici aujourd'hui. So thank you everyone. Thank you for this invitation. I'm very honored to be here today, and thank you for giving us the platform to speak. So for me, just like Jennifer, my passion for trade's been, well, I know she talked about university, but I went to college. So my passion for the trades, it's been something that coming from a young age. My dad was a mechanical engineer, but had a passion for cooking, so also a skilled trade. So he was a serial entrepreneur. So growing up, we were always working on several different organizations. Once we finish school, we will go work and help the parents with their businesses. And after studying and graduating in construction engineering technician management at George Brown, I had like the opportunity to really work in the trades, but due to childcare concern, which is still an issue today, I had to totally change my trajectory. So I went into telecommunication for 17 years and a half, 9 different departments. But my love and my passion for trades was always calling me. So what I've ended up doing is literally starting volunteering for Habitat for Humanity, building houses throughout the GTA. I ended up becoming the crew lead. So from there, we were working in Scarborough, Roncesvalles, so many different places, done townhouses and homes, so on and so forth. Volunteered also for $1 Million Smiles, where we were building playground for children battling critical illnesses to just bring a smile to their face. But even when when I'm talking about all this, is like we're talking about I graduated 20 some years ago at George Brown. And when I'm talking about Habitat for Humanity, we're talking about almost 10, 15 years ago, right? And but through just continuing, persevering, working hard, I was also doing a lot of renovation, leading some projects, so on and so forth. But my call for the trade was just too, it was calling me way too much. So what I ended up doing is Google research to see how do we join the skill trade, because I was no longer with the telecommunication company. So we've stumbled into Toronto Community Benefit Network, that is a non-for-profit organization that really help people join the skill trade with their mentorship program. I had the opportunity to really be there and be part of it, and met the Carpenters Union, Chris Campbell and his colleagues, and they had me join Carpenters Union Local 27. It's been history. Like for me, the Local 27 had put me where I was able to really work in so many major construction projects like Woodbine Casino Hotel, the Well downtown Toronto, at Front and Spadina, Tyndale University, and so many more. So these experiences really build my confidence. And also, at first, there were no women at the job site. I was the only one there. But now more than ever, as some of our previous speakers, they were saying that women are coming and joining the trade, which is really amazing with the work that we've been doing. So with the incredible work with the Carpenters Regional Council, who's been putting diversity and inclusion at the forefront of everything that we do, and partnering with all these different organizations like Ontario Building Construction Tradeswomen, Toronto Community Benefit Network, Skills Ontario, Toronto York Labour Council, RESCON, TVO Kids, going into schools and going into community event, we had access to really showcase how when organization put diversity at the forefront, we become powerful, we become strong, and then at the same time we inspire the next generation of young women, young folks that are really interested in going and learning about the trades. So thank you very much again. And really also, I would really say to, before even I say thank you again, I would say thanks to really the leadership of Jason Rowe and our executive, the leadership of the executive of the Carpenters Regional Council and the local unions. That's one of the reasons why I am inspired to lead. I work the way I work today. So thank you.
No, that's amazing. And lastly, we have Clarice. Just give us a little background on your journey as well through the skilled trades.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah. If 18 years ago, someone had have told me I would have gone from a laborer to working for a multinational, I would have said they're absolutely crazy. It's been definitely an amazing ride. Just to echo my other panelists here, there certainly is a lifetime of opportunities in the construction business. And I know my career is a testament to that. But, when I hear these stories, I mean, it just proves the fact that the industry is incredibly vast. So I do believe that there's something for everyone. I'm referring to my notes here now because I don't want to miss anything. I hate when I get off these things and I've missed a couple of comments. But when I started out in construction, I was in my mid 20s. I wanted to pay my bills, and there's no shame in that. And I was really pleased to hear Charmaine Williams earlier in this at this event commenting. She probably commented 2 or 3 times about the empowerment of women, with well-paying jobs, lucrative opportunities. I think it's so important for female empowerment to have those opportunities to be able to afford a life. I started out I should back up a little bit. I actually started out in a women in skilled trades program at Conestoga College. It's an 8-month program. That helped me get a job on site. I started as a laborer. I did the carpentry apprenticeship. I did that for 3 years, but I spent 10 years on the job site. So while there, I simultaneously took on health and safety roles as well. Then I'm jumping ahead 10 years in about two seconds here. But after that, life changed, and I was in my late 30s. I wanted to have a family. And so then I ended up getting into project management. I started out as a project coordinator, was promoted within a year to an assistant PM. And then as a PM, I do credit that those rapid promotions from being on site for so many years. You really gained an understanding of how to build. Yeah, so I guess that brings me up to 17 years now in construction. Within the last year, I've made an incredible change. I'm an account manager, and you can see on the screen at Hilti Canada. It's a European-based multinational that provides solutions to the construction industry. So we're involved with manufacturing of power tools, our fastening systems, software, fire stopping, and that sort of thing. So I work with some really incredible people, both locally, provincially, internationally. And yeah, that's my story, and that's where I'm at right now. And it's just the beginning, I feel like.
Well, we are very glad to have all of you here. You each had such an inspirational journey. And this kind of leads us into our first question for Jennifer. So, Jennifer, you've been an extremely powerful voice showing young women that there is more to the skilled trades than the traditional 144 registered skilled trades in Ontario. So, from your experience, how can we challenge the stigma and expand awareness of these diverse pathways and better support women when it comes to advancing into leadership roles, whether it's on the tools or off the tools?
Thanks, Yasmin. We need to change the story. Trades are not a fallback. They're a pathway of innovation, problem solving, technical skill that also lead into leadership. And I know not everyone on this call is skilled trades. We've got women in construction, women within sectors that skilled trades are on. Well, although trades is my path, and so is the other ladies on this call, I know that many other people here are part of either RESCON or through memberships. But the information is still the same in how we go through that, in changing the narrative and the leadership. We need to continue to reframe the narrative, especially early on. For example, with guidance counselors, whether that is elementary, secondary, post-secondary, in the classrooms, whether that is continuing ed for adults or for youth, and especially in parents' minds in regards to youth. We need to use real stories like Clarice and Brock. And funny story, Clarice and I actually met at the program she talked about in her intro of her story. That is how we met 20 years ago in an environment like this, except it was in person. And Clarice heard me speaking when I was starting out in my advocacy role. So you also never know who you will meet and where you will be 20 years later in that space of network and mentorship. So, as far as using real stories, real life examples of where you started and where you got into leadership roles, we need to show that skilled trades have many attributes, many transferable skills, and we need to promote it as a choice. One of the biggest barriers is lack of awareness, whether it is youth or adults. I always share how my experiences changed my direction. Whether mine was specific to high school, I still mentor young men and women, and their experiences are changing their lives in their 20s, in their 30s, and beyond. I noted how I went from a university track to becoming a Red Seal trade. I did that by the age of 21. I was licensed by the age of 21, working full time as a journey person. It was the programs and the opportunities and the mentorship, specifically for me as an underrepresented group as a woman, was the key component, especially when looking at having more women interested in leadership roles, including and especially any potential for job shadowing that you could offer to another woman in your organization, in your company. Take that little bit of an opportunity, extend the olive branch, take somebody under your wing and just show them little pieces. Let them understand how the role works. What is in that opportunity? What can you share to help move it along? Mentorship is the key component into how I got to where I am today. It's not the only component, but it is definitely one of those key components. I was lucky enough to have powerful leaders, both male and female, be my mentor. They were able to give extensive exposure and learning opportunities that helped guided me, let me know what was out there, what was available, and what I needed to do to tweak myself from going from here to here. What did I need to add into my life to get to that point? Whether it was education, learning how to handle more stressful environments and how to have that no such thing as work-life balance and being able to still have my family at home. Clarice was talking about having a family. I also have 2 kids. They are 13 and 11. Well, guess what? My 13-year-old now stands almost 7 inches taller than me, and I'm a 5'9" woman. That is how tall my kid is. That is what I'm coming home to every day, is now this 13-year-old telling me what things are like as a teenager. Well, I got to deal with that now in my life, on top of my job, on top of the progress, on top of the leadership. So how do you balance it? Learning from those who have already gone through it is the best way to learn those life lessons. There is no class to learn how to handle your family life and your work life as you work up the chain into leadership. It's those opportunities that I really say to where I got to where I am. All those little extra pieces that weren't just a classroom or a program. It's all of it combined into one. When promoting the 144 skilled trades in Ontario, that's just one piece of it. But what else can be derived from that? It's the leadership roles that one day women may be interested to go into, especially if they are made aware of them early. We need to plant the seed. Let women think into the future, far beyond to the possibility of leadership. This can be seen, for example, at the Skills Ontario competition with Canada's largest Young Women in Trades conference, run by Lindsay Chester, our program manager. All speakers and booths are hosted by women in trades and in leadership roles. You want to talk about see it, be it? We got it. We will present that forward, have that opportunity. But we even go beyond and even further. We also introduce another underrepresented group into women in trades. A large population of our province is Francophone. There are 12 Francophone school boards in the province. There are 2 fully Francophone colleges. There is a massive community. We need to also include and think about that. So we hold 3 conferences, 2 in English and 1 fully in French for that community as well. Understanding and representing the whole multi-layers of an onion, the more underrepresented groups that you have combined into one, the harder it could be. Recruitment isn't enough though. Retention is the piece that needs more work, where progression matters. I've stressed public awareness of companies offering their underrepresented initiatives on their websites, for example. Because when a woman sees those kind of programs live and public, it gives you the knowledge and the feeling they've got my back. This is an inclusive wraparound service for retention that companies and organizations can offer, even before you have hired them. Another piece of a wraparound service is inclusivity training for those whom you'll be working with, especially if many of them have never worked with a woman in their trade. In my career, I was always the first, and I was always the only, and I was generally always with men who had never, ever worked with a woman in their entire career. It was interesting to say the least. Always ensuring that there is inclusive PPE and attire, on-site inclusivity infrastructure for women, zero tolerance for harassment, and having programs that look far into the future, especially when you're trying to plan going into leadership. For example, companies already having light duty roles in place already documented for women who may become pregnant in the trades. This also includes return to work options after maternity leave. It is extremely stressful for women, and many have this as a deciding factor when they look at going into the trades or following up into leadership roles. What if I want to have a family? How is that going to impact me? In 2021, there was an increase of 24% of registered apprentices. 28% of those were women. However, in 2022, data from CAF shows that the completion rate for women was only 36%. What is missing to keep them? The retention piece. We need to create visibility for leadership roles. When women see those seats, it changes their aspiration. This is inclusive to even feeling confident, to even applying to a leadership role. When women are less likely to apply when they feel they don't meet all or most of the requirements. The Harvard Business Study Review in a report states the most commonly cited statistic. Women apply only if they meet 100% of the listed job requirements, whereas men apply if they only meet 60. When and how do we gain confidence, though? Programs like Skills Ontario Competition acts as a powerful platform. Apprentices compete, they can medal, and it gives a platform for advocacy. And it shows the public what the future of skilled trades and leadership looks like. Competition builds your skills, provides networking and mentorship, the feeling of empowerment that changes your life, in earning instant respect for being in that competitive environment. You need to leverage these kinds of platforms and programs, especially for underrepresented groups. For me, I competed in my third year apprenticeship representing Conestoga College. When they asked me, I laughed and said, no, like, are you out of your mind? I'm not willing to go put myself on a stage as an underrepresented group to just fail and be even further down. Thankfully, I had teachers and mentors who saw more in me than what I could at the time. I ended up winning gold for Ontario and silver for Canada. So it's important that we don't just invite women, but value them. For interviews and on the job, I always emphasize being unique, standing out, use being a woman to your advantage. You already stick out, so stick out some more. Make yourself so valuable that you can't be ignored. If we challenge the stereotypes, expose women early to the breadth of skilled trades, support them into leadership, collaboration across sectors, and offer meaningful inclusion, we will advance a broader, stronger workforce. We need all those involved to actually get involved. Trades needs women leadership. Our economy needs women's talent. And when women lead on and off the tools, the ripple effect is enormous. And my journey to leadership is an effect of that. Thank you.
That's amazing, Jennifer. Your journey to your leadership position has quite literally started from probably when I was in university about 10 years ago. But your journey has been amazing, and you've faced all the barriers and challenges, and you've overcome them to where you are today. And I feel like that is a great question into our next lead question for Rock. So Rock, you've built a pretty successful career in the skilled trades, and you've also become a leader and mentor, paving the way for other women. From your experience, what are the key factors or supports that make the biggest difference in helping women advance in their construction careers and transition into these leadership roles?
That's a great question, Yasmin. From my experience, I would say that the biggest difference really for women to advance in construction comes from three key components. I would say one would be visibility. The other one, mentorship, I know Maggie mentioned it earlier, from Maggie from Tridel mentioned it earlier in her program. And also the third would be inclusive opportunities. So I wholeheartedly believe that representation matters. You can't be what you can't see. So you need to, in order for people to really strive, I would say that you need to see someone who's really successful. Like Jennifer mentioned, Ontario is making sure that the francophone schools are included and in the skills competition. And I've been participating in so many of their events, and I see more and more French schools, French francophones being able to be there and being able to also learn about what we do here in Ontario. Being able to also be the keynote speaker for Skills Ontario at one of the Young Women Conference is really essential, because other young girls who were not thinking about being a tradesperson now is like, oh my gosh, I want to be a carpenter. I want to be in skilled trade. Recently, I went to, several months ago, I went to an event in Brampton, 350 schools, grade 9 to grade 12. I was on a panel. I was speaking, talking about Carpenters Union, the trades, all the major projects I was in. Guess what? Afterward, when I went onto my booth, one of the young women came and said, Rock, thank you so much for speaking today. My father and my brother been in the skilled trade industry for many years, like over 15 years. I've never seen myself, well, from she was a baby, right? I've never seen myself as a tradesperson until today when you spoke. And that gave me goosebump, because when you, what the little things that we do can be something so major. Just being able to be on this platform, for instance, that is organized by RESCON, is also, these type of discussions are really key. So when women see other women strive, right, and leading crews at the job site, being able to be maybe a project manager or teaching apprentices in our training centers, right? Or being a representative, a union representative like myself, and or business representative, so on and so forth. They actually start believing that this is possible. They can be it, right? So, like I mentioned earlier, the Carpenters Union had played a really pivotal role in really collaborating and making sure that diversity and inclusion is at the forefront, and strategically making sure that women are in every single level of our organization. So from there, you're able to really see it, believe it, and know that with hard work, with mentorship, with dedication, you could also work hard. So our leadership is not only, like in the trade, is not only defined by gender, but also by skill, commitment, and also by vision. And the second thing I mentioned, it's the mentorship piece. For me, I had the amazing privilege of being surrounded by so many mentors, in whether it was personally or professionally. They were able to really challenge me. They were able to help me excel. They were able to guide me, so that I could really come out of my comfort zone. Because sometimes, like when I'm speaking and I'm talking to the youth, I always tell them, you are the only person who could stop you from reaching your full potential. Like myself, I was the one who was stopping myself from believing that I could do it. I was extremely petrified of heights. But believe it or not, with practice after practice, being able to really say to myself that I'm not going to say I can't, I'm going to say I can, being able to also believe and build that confidence, I ended up building downtown Toronto on scaffold, 50-story high. But if you asked me 5 years ago that I was going to do that, I'll tell you, you're out of your mind. You have the wrong person completely. Because my first try at Woodbine Casino, I was on a ladder. I froze in the middle of the ladder. I had to be encouraged by my brothers and the sisters, like my brothers, not, there was no sisters, to tell me, Rock, you could do it, just step by step. I was so embarrassed. But afterward, being able to really overcome those fears was really key. And now what I do is I pay it forward. I coach, I mentor, I connect to so many different women. Jennifer, we met how many times, and we've been part of so many different other organizations with Ontario Building Construction Tradeswomen. So being able to really make sure that we're there and mentoring the next generation is key, because mentorship really bridge the gap between potential and progress, because from there the person who doesn't believe in exceeding or believing in being there or believing in going to the next level, you have that mentor that is there, that is like guiding, opening that network, being able to like really challenge that individual to say, you could do it. What is stopping you? Why do you think that you can't? And giving you the tools and everything to excel. The next one, which is the last one, really, I would say that it's inclusivity opportunity. As a Francophone individual, I love the fact that my union also work hard to make sure that also the Francophone schools are also included in the OYA program that the government has, right? We had the opportunity to go to 9 different Francophone schools, original, like last year or the year before, to really talk to each of the students, give them hand activities like workshops, being able to give them inspirational and tools really to succeed, and tell them that everything is possible. Like being in the trade is a rewarding and lucrative avenue, and being able to also talk to those parents as well, the Francophone parents. Then we went also to the English schools, because it's really important to explain that it's important. The skilled trade is not something that needs to be a last option. It should be a first option. Like Jennifer was mentioning, they were telling her about going to university. However, if, for instance, we shift that mindset and start telling people, hey, the skilled trade is also an amazing, rewarding experience where whatever you build, there it's tangible experience, that, and it's tangible. You see what what you're involved. Being able to drive around the city and being able to say that I've done that, I was part of that. There's nothing that anybody can take away with those experience and skills that we develop. And what I love about, where I know I talk about my union a lot, because they give me the opportunity to really excel, and they provide the highest standard of training, fair wages, safe and respectful workplace for all. So people, like, I worked in non-union before, but there's a huge difference, because making sure that you finish your job at the job site and being able to get home with all your limbs and being able to be safe is really important, right? And the making sure that folks have access, equal access to apprenticeship, safety training, leadership development, and advancement. There's nothing better than that. I know that the non-union have their own training, so on and so forth, but as a union member, I'm biased, right? So when we combine visibility, mentorship, and inclusion, people don't just enter the trade, they stay in it. Because I know we talked about the retention piece, and it's really important to make sure that our women, our brothers, like folks, stays in the trades and complete the apprenticeship and get their red seal. We also get to lead, and we transform the industry for the next generation, because right now we have so many baby boomers who are going to be retiring. When we do that gap would be nice to make sure that the information is shared, people are learning, and then the young kids are able to really see that they could be the next engineer, then they could be the next carpenter, the next electrician, the next project manager, so on and so forth. So being able to also showcase this at a very young age, it's really important. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. It is very important to start introducing the trades as a first pathway rather than a backup pathway, as Jennifer said as well. And just being able to transition into the role of having a family and everything is also very hard. So it's nice that we can show people that you are able to do that. So this actually leads me into my next question. And I know we had touched on a couple challenges in the State of Women panel as well. So this leads into the question for Clarice. So Clarice, your journey from carpenter to account manager is a great example of career growth and leadership within the industry. Along that path, I know you had touched on wanting a family. Other than that, or as well as that, what challenges did you face as a woman advancing within the industry, and how did you overcome them to reach your current role?
Great, I'm not on mute, okay.
No, you're good.
Great. Thanks for the question. Well as that, my first comment would be about pregnancy on the job site, because at the time, my company didn't have a policy on pregnancies on the job site. So I was working on a 20-story tower in Waterloo, and the superintendents, the site super and the assistant super, they stepped right up to the plate and they modified work for me. We were in finishing stages at the time, so it worked out really well. But even to this day, my when I think of those gentlemen, they warm my heart because they really made it work for me. And now the company does have a policy about it. Um, Second challenge, and this is a challenge that runs right across the board for everybody, but health and safety is an issue in construction. It can be a dangerous place. You do have to be very conscientious about how you're handling your own safety from day to day. I know in 2015, I fell off the 13th story of a tower going up in Waterloo. I was tied off. I went right down the elevator shaft, and I ended up getting retracted, but slamming into the wall. But that said, that sort of it stuck with me for almost 5 years. My heart would skip a beat if I was just going off to sleep at night, or if I were around heights. I wasn't going to let it get the better of me, though. I went back to the job site and continued to work. But I think that part, I mean, that's a bit of an extreme example, but you really have to be conscientious about your own personal health and safety. The third, in terms of promotions, I know Emily Aerosmith, who was speaking on the panel earlier, would be able to speak about that from a research perspective a little bit better. But in terms of being promoted, I would say for me, I didn't care. I was going to find a way to make my dreams come true. I didn't know what that exactly meant at the time. So I would say that uh, over those years on the job site, just put in the work. And that would be the advice that I have to individuals. You put in the work. I do believe that good things will happen. I know that there were so many men over the years, and different men in different roles across the couple of different companies that I worked at, that were really willing to, extend an olive branch and help me out. So while there are challenges, there are ways around those. And I think it's really important just to reach out to local organizations, like, for example, Jennifer and I meeting so many years ago at Skills Ontario events and whatnot. There really is a community, and there are people out there that really want to help you in your success. So I think I'll leave it there and pass it back to you, Yasmin. But those would be my comments about challenges that I've experienced firsthand.
No, those are great challenges, and I'm glad that you've overcome them. The heights one is definitely one that I struggle with as well. But anyways, it was great to have you ladies on the panel. I just have one kind of wrap-up question for everybody. So just a quick piece of advice that you have for women trying to advance in the skilled trades or in the industry. We can start with the speaking order, so we can go Jennifer first.
My favorite piece of advice, I actually put in my main answer already, is, and it's like the number one piece of advice that I give for every interview, because it is literally my favorite and I have used it myself, is you do already stick out. You do already stand out. I mean, like in an old school term, like a sore thumb. So stand out some more. Go find the niche. Go find the specialty. Go find that thing that makes you more valuable than those around you. Make sure that you keep your spot and make sure that you stand out and stand out more, that you become so valuable that people can't overtalk you, that people can't overpower you, that you have built yourself a platform and built yourself up with those specialty accolades or those niche pieces. For my trade specifically, well, although not construction, it always came down to old school bearing scraping. That doesn't exist anymore. Machines are way past that. It was a niche technique that only if you like learned it and you did it a long time ago were you having it. So everybody like clamored to want to work with that journey person so they could learn that niche piece, because you were guaranteed to stay no matter what, because they needed somebody to work on that machine, that very old machine with all these old techniques. That was a niche piece that would make you stand out above others. Well, although that's very specific to my trade at the time, it is my key piece of information for anybody, especially in leadership. What can you bring to the table that those around you, if we're all applying to the same job, what makes you stand out? Stand out some more.
Thank you. Brock, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. For me, what I would say is very simple. Just be fearless, be curious, because you never know what you're going to get and learn. Face your fears, because you're the only one who could stop you from reaching your full potential. Stay authentic and lift others as you rise, because that's something that is really important. We need to make sure that we're bringing others, we're opening that door. Make sure that you have grit, right? It's hard work with passion, with very, very, very long-term goals that really will, and persevere, because it's going to be hard. And when it's hard, just celebrate those small wins and then remember why you started, why you're there, so that you could get to the end game. And don't shrink yourself, because as a woman, we have tendency of shrinking ourselves, and just don't shrink yourself to fit in. This is also for our brothers, folks out there. And instead, build new spaces so that you're able to strive, right? And so that others can strive as well. Because I know most of the time when we carry out tools, people have tendency of thinking that it's just the hammer and the saw, but it's really, those tools are really the courage, the resilience, and also the purpose. So every time we show up, and we're showing up like with our true authentic self, guess what? We're breaking those barriers already, right? So be bold, be kind, and make sure you mentor others and lift as you rise. Because when you do that, not only you're building your career, but also you're building legacy. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Clarice.
Great, thank you. Well, in the interest of time, I will keep mine short and sweet. I agree with all of those comments that Jennifer and Rock said, but just to echo what I had said as well in previously, it's reach out for help, and reach out for help both within your organization and externally as well, outside of your organization, to different support groups. So that's what I would say. That's been effective throughout, my entire career. Not everybody is going to help you in your career, nor yeah, I mean, they have lives of their own too, right? Nor should they have to necessarily all of the time. It just depends. You find these really great matches, and you never know what can happen. So yeah, that's what I would say. Reach out internally and externally. There's people that want to help.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you all so much for being here. That's amazing advice for anyone in the trades, wanting to start in the trades and looking to advance their careers. And each of your passions shows very strongly for what you do and where you've come from. So I'd just like to thank you all from RESCON for being here. Your advice and your knowledge has been amazing for everybody on the panel and our attendees. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure.
We're just going to wrap up with a quick housekeeping things to close out the webinar. So a huge thank you to our sponsor, Sherrard Coos, and our speakers and everybody who has joined us today for the 5th annual Women in Construction webinar. We've seen that there is movement towards inclusive and forward thinking within the industry, but there's still lots to be done. Just a quick thing, everyone who has attended and would like to rewatch the webinar will be available within the post-event summary and then on our website as of probably tomorrow. And then all the materials from the presentations during the webinar and the resources that were spoken about will be available as well. Right. Pass back to Andrew.
No, that's great. We'll end it here, and thank you to all the speakers, and thanks everyone for attending. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.